winning jobs in the post office, working as a conductor for the Metropolitan Transit Authority, and finally becoming a police officer. That was considered a top-level civil service job, but he soon found that even in his success, he was limited in how far he could climb, how many promotions he could get. To overcome these limits, he studied part-time for many years, earning an undergraduate degree and taking some graduate courses. Phil says that when he showed Dad his grades, there was no talking permitted. Phil might try to explain, "Dad, it's a lot of pressure always going up against an honor roll student like Dave." But our dad wouldn't hear it. Punishment was his response. Boy energy. Why wasn't my brother living up to his potential? I've had decades to think it over, as a brother, a father, a teacher, and a school principal. In part, I see now that he was the classic middle child, always in the first child's shadow. It was worse because we were so close in age. He would have been better off starting school the following September, but as it was, I was always among the oldest kids in my class, and he was always the youngest in his. I had that extra year of maturity going for me, and particularly for boys, maturity can take a while to kick in. Developmentally, he was a year behind in both academics and social maturity. We wondered when he would ever realize his potential. I had many chances to experience early success, while he rarely experienced even the small victories and moments of recognition that help motivate all of us to achieve greater things. He must have felt, from early on, why am I even trying to be an A student or a well-behaved kid? I'm never going to catch up to my older brother. And so he tried to stand out as a smart aleck. Phil was not a terror, not out of control, not the kind of kid to get into violence, but he had a lot of energy, even more than the average boy. Part of that energy came from frustration. Energetic, often singled out by his teachers, frustrated, he could be a handful. The teachers tended to lose patience. As each intern got to know him as an underachieving student and a provocative presence in her classroom, that became his identity. They looked for more of it. He heard an awful lot of, "Stop it, Philip." As an adult, I found out from my parents that the teachers and the administration of our school had recommended that Philip be put on medication because, they said, he was too hyper. They made the same recommendation for him that is made for lots of other active boys, black and brown boys most of all. Young men of color are 3 times more likely to be categorized as mentally retarded or learning disabled. Black students, for example, represent 17% of students overall, but 41% of those in special ed classes. And in those classes, there are more than twice as many black males as black females. This doesn't necessarily stem from racism or a bias against boys. The majority of teachers in this country are white and female, and their personal experiences give them little in common with boys like Philip. When they were girls, they probably liked school. Teachers approved of their behavior. They did well. For all those reasons, they may have been inspired to become teachers themselves. But the very strengths that qualified them to be teachers meant that they probably lacked the personal context for understanding a boy like Philip. Either why he was so unhappy in the classroom or how his feelings could provoke him to behave in disruptive ways. The result, as Peg Tyre, author of The Trouble with Boys, described it, is that as early as preschool, many young men get into a pattern of negative feedback based on pretty normal behavior. Anyone could see that Phil was actually very verbal, very quick-witted. In fact, his intelligence was part of what made him so hard for teachers, or anyone, to handle. When a teacher would give him a directive, he might tell her, "You're not my mother, and you're not my father. You have no right to tell me what to do." Just the thing to get under a teacher's skin, and to distract her from seeing the challenges he faced and the help he would require to reach his potential. Philip was not just angry and mouthy in school, he was also bored. In my experience, smart girls who get bored